let's get straight into this report. How have you ended up in a place where you've published this sort of report, which is really aimed at helping schools and teachers get the most from digital in education?
Truth is, I'd join any club that would help move forward the use of technology in schools so it supports teaching and learning effectively. And that's for everybody.
So what this guide and toolkit is, what developing digital is, stories. It's got human beings telling stories to other human beings, and it avoids is the tyranny of the case study. That case study, that you read, that never has a single mistake, it never has a single misstep, it never has a single zig or a zag. Yeah, it's always been absolutely perfect from day one, and there is nothing more off-putting for change or organisational change or digital change or human change than the case study. We've had a lot of support with the research, and we've merely curated, but we want to give this to the system right now because there is a strategic approach that you should take.
You know, the technology is lovely and it's great and all that, but if we can't help people use it, if we can't give people the confidence to bring it into how they choose to educate and inspire people, then kind of what's the point, right? So
it's a people problem. This isn't a technology problem. It's a people problem.
You can humanize education technology, and it's people that make it work. And as Ian said earlier, and as you've hinted at, you know, this is about how we strengthen their confidence to want to change, to try change.
And in that survey, 66% of people said they weren't getting value from technology, and 66% said they couldn't guarantee the safety of their data or the pupils. And the start of the response was a document that basically said, let's try and break that problem down. And we thought 6 was a good number because we were dealing with bursars at the time. And I just liked the idea of having IT, bursars, and six-pack all in the same sentence, because it wouldn't often happen.
Dave, we love evangelists. Yeah, we love we love IT evangelists. I even love an ICT evangelist. But look, the issue is that you've got to ground evangelism in looking at the challenges that people have. And there couldn't have been a more challenging context than COVID.
The largest action research project on a global scale that's ever been carried out.
Probably had the fastest adoption cycle of technology that you could possibly imagine. So Ian talked about the digital divide. We've got challenges on infrastructure. We've got challenges on senior leadership teams have had to develop ways of approaching remote learning. Trying to make something accessible that is complex was a real challenge.
You know, what is it? What's the catalyst?
Well, I liked your phrase. This is not a train coming at you down the tunnel. This is a gateway.
And then the window came in June where we quickly said, look, I think now people are starting to realize what's happened, actually have something that can go back to that's got some structure. We're not going to be able to maintain the same pace of change that has been in schools for the last 3 months. It's impossible. We are going to need to move to whatever a new situation is, and we cannot throw away the wonderful learning and the experiences. That's what the six-pack gives.
That's what I loved about the report, is I felt that it was facilitative things, but most importantly, it provided a framework for people to start to package it.
And what we've got is little nuggets, honest nuggets of digital success that schools have experienced, written honestly.
Rather than, you know, here's a technology solution.
Same thing. You've got to look at it in terms of system change. And I think we neglected EdTech for far too long. We neglected its power to support learners, to support kids. It's really, really important. Knowledge, skills.
Surely now this is the point that we should be having that conversation with government to show how important it is to our economy, how important to our society it is that we enable people to build a really brilliant relationship with technology.
We need systematic and pragmatic change. You know, we've had the Global Action Research Project. We've got the evidence.
The fact that we would still be laying, steel, across the country for high-speed train lines when we should be laying more glass to connect more schools, to connect more homes, to enable us access to this infrastructure. And being very specific there, I'm not talking about coding. I'm talking about something called digital intelligence, which I know features heavily in the report.
Yeah, digital intelligence, though, Dave, it's knowing when to use it and when not to.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Right? It's knowing when to put the phone down.
Yeah.
We need to think about how do we use education to build an education system that is empowering people and enabling them with the skills for what they're going to be needed in the workplace. So this doesn't replace assessment. It doesn't replace the need to show attainment. But we need to be looking at how do we enable all children with the skills to continually learn, to be able to globally collaborate, to be able to innovate, to be able to use the tools that they have, to know what technology can do. Now, these are the skills that are needed, and that isn't a very small investment. That's a fundamental rethink of what we want to do with education. But the other thing which they've both alluded to very quickly, final point, was that the funding to do this is not small, but the benefit of doing this is going to last a generation. It's going to last as long as any infrastructure project on people. We need to, we talk about funding. We need to think first of all about making, not only getting, we talk about broadband, but if you go to many other countries, they're talking about super high speed broadband.
Yeah.
The fact that we have people without broadband in this age, in the 5th biggest economy in the world, is a disgrace. We need to be getting broadband into homes, particularly at the current climate. We need to make sure that children have access to computing. If anything, COVID has exposed the real underlying deep problems that we've got. We should use this as an opportunity to have a very, very deep look at ourselves and say, these sort of problems, this instability, this change, it's not going to disappear. It's going to become more frequent. So how do we really build a system that's going to be resilient to that, not just for a few years, not for a few months, but for generations?
Yeah, no, totally.
But clearly, look, you still need to know things. We're not just preparing young people for the workforce, but those skills are really important. I think the UTC movement, the university technical colleges, have tried to rise to that blending of skills and knowledge. I think digital's got a far bigger role to play in terms of supporting teachers, liberating learners for when they do their learning. So it's about place, time, and thinking about how you learn, and you learn in different ways. So I get where Gary's coming from, and I think that voice is really important in terms of rethinking and reshaping an education system. But I think at core, it's a question for all of us: will we always need a place called school? And what has COVID and remote learning and all of that taught us? That tragedy has taught us, surely, that human to human relationships, that whole relational aspect of school, the importance of pastoral care, the importance of teachers guiding young people, they're one of the most respected professions. Any society that values education would be valuing its educators. It would not be setting its favourite newspapers to attack teachers. It would not be wanting to embarrass teachers. It would not give teachers 60 bits of guidance in matters of days that flip-flop around the place. It would have clarity about what a school is going to be doing during these difficult times. I think there's a lot of anger out there from the education profession, but they should be celebrated, as should, as you said, Dave, as should a lot of other people. We need to elevate lots of people in terms of what they've done and how they've responded. Is it a new world? Is it a new utopia? Well, maybe not, but maybe we've had a glimpse of doing things in different ways. And maybe, Gary, that glimpse will open the door to different thinking and different relationships.
So look, we're getting close to time. And as much, I find it really frustrating because I think we're also just getting started in this conversation. So two things, guys, will you come back at some point in the future, maybe as we get closer to the start of term, and let's continue this conversation. Yeah. I'd like to sort of wrap out with some closing comments for you. Ty, if I could start with you, what's the one thing that you need from a policy level, from a government level, in order to move forward? What's the one thing that we need to make happen?
In England, we need political leadership on education technology. We need a new EdTech strategy. We need increased funding for the professional development of teachers. We need super fast broadband, and we need to take seriously the digital divide. Above all, we need to realise that education technology supports teachers, it can support learners, and it's not some freaky stuff. It's actually really, really useful.
Gary, what advice would you give to parents? What's the one thing that you think they could do to help them sort of engage in this debate? I'm not saying to accept the answers, but to actually be part of the debate. What would you ask them to do?
There's a couple of things, and it's a two-way relationship. The first thing is parents have to trust the teachers in the schools that they are doing the right, like the difficulties that schools are facing at the moment. So parents need to support them. But this works two ways as well, because I think one of the things that schools can do, apart from network with other schools, is really start to engage parents in this debate and in this discussion. Reach out. One of the things that I see in successful schools is that they're starting to look for learning where they can. They're looking at other schools nearby. They're looking globally, but they're going, is there a resource in the parents that I can start to use? Are there experts there that can help? So start to engage both ways. I think a lot of schools have an untapped resource in parents who can help here.
Agreed.
One final thing. What also needs to change, parents need to start getting really vocal with government, with politicians, with their MPs about driving the change. We've learned that the education system is not in a great state for the changes we're facing. So that change needs to come from the top. It needs to be have the mandate to make the change, and also to support failures as well. But also it's going to ultimately need the funding. To see the change that we've got with COVID, and then to go, the right answer is to put children back into exactly the same model that we had before when we knew it was creaking, is never going to be the right way. This is a great opportunity to learn. The answer is not going to be found. It's going to evolve to what is the right answer. So parents need to support that change.
Yeah. It's the ethos of what you're talking about. As much as it's about building communities for schools and teachers to connect and share ideas, I think the same is true for parents. And the more we can do to give them the confidence to be part of that conversation, the better. Look, we have to wrap it up just because we're getting close to time. Ian, Ty, Gary, thank you so much for joining with us. It's been an absolute pleasure to be part of this. It really is fantastic to see this work coming through, because as a technologist, this is the final bit of the puzzle for me, getting the humans in the right place. I would love you to come back at some appropriate point in the future, maybe towards the beginning of next term.
Love to.
So I'm going to close just by saying, this report is out.